All right, so this week's course is Rum Pointe in Berlin, Maryland, which is just south of Ocean City. It's actually just northwest of Assateague Island. So I was just really kind of lucky in a sense to try to get down there and play last weekend when it was 60, 61, 65 degrees on Sunday. But I wanted to play, I didn't really want to play any place, I guess near DC. I wanted to just kind of get away from the city for a while, and so I was looking at places on the map at Ocean City, and there were about 6 or 7 different courses down there by Ocean City. And this one just kind of stuck out because it had 2 courses. One was uh, a regular golf course, I guess, sort of a woods course in a sense. And the other one was a links course, and a links course by the Chesapeake Bay, right on the Chesapeake Bay. So I went down. I said, well, I'll play one of them. Let me go down there and see which one I think is the best one to play. And I actually liked the normal course, which had a fair amount of woods and water and stuff, at least in the shots that I saw on YouTube and so forth. But I went down there and checked it out, and it's actually 2 things about it which turned me off. The first is it's actually in Cambridge. It's pretty much right downtown in the city. And when I actually went by the course, it's actually called Nutter's Landing is the name of the course. It may be that the old name was Rum Pointe Golf Course, but now it's called Nutter's Landing. So the other thing is I didn't want to play it because it was just, literally looked like just your standard neighborhood course, flat. Maybe there's some places that had water on it, but in a larger sense, it was a bunch of medium-sized, mini mansions, not packed too closely, but still packed in circles around the course. The course ran around the center of it. Didn't look appealing at all, and it did not help that it was late when I got there. It was, kind of just before dark and just before sunset, and certainly it was dark enough and it was foggy enough where there really wasn't any part of the course that looked attractive. So I went ahead and drove out to Ocean City, and then got there, had somewhat of an adventure, stayed the night out there. I got a flat tire literally when I was driving to the course, and I ended up staying out there. Went ahead and rented a room, stayed out there, and got up the next morning and came back to play the course. And I couldn't really see the course beforehand, but I just seen the pictures. They looked pretty tame before, with a flat course with some tight lies and things. Tight places where you had to hit over sections where they let the bay come into the course and so forth. But that wasn't really, I guess, the big picture of this course. It actually is a pretty decent course. It is sort of a half links, half neighborhood course with some woods on it. The back nine has half of it, which is woods. You're playing out of a normal woods thing. It's very much like the links at Lighthouse Point and on the back side. But the thing is, it's only half of the backside is like that. Actually, most of the course is links. I'd say about 2/3 of the course. And then there's maybe 4 or 5 woods holes, which are actually pretty decent holes, except for the fact. And of course, there's 2 ifs, except for this. Number 1, the number 10 fairway runs along the left side of a lake, or at least a sort of a pond that stretches out around a crescent. But the right side runs along the fairway. Sorry, the right side of the lake is where the road is that runs up to the course. And not just the road that runs to the course, but also there's 6 or 7 houses that are just off the number, I guess, 12 hole, where the course goes back to the left towards the clubhouse, but the houses go off to the right. So the number 12 hole, I believe it's number 12 hole, you actually play out around another crescent lake that goes around a lake on the right, and it's a lake that goes between The number 12, I think it's number 12, and number 13 is a par 3. I'm pretty sure it's 13. And it's a 220-yard par 3 from the back tees. And that plays on the left side of that lake again as you come back towards the entrance of the course away from the clubhouse. And there's houses, just like 4 or 5 houses that are on the left side of number 12. But sure enough, when I was playing it that day, and I mean literally, it was just, as you can see, the shots are foggy as hell. It's fog coming into the course. There's like maybe 5 minutes of clear weather where I got to take pictures of number 11 that didn't have any fog, but almost all the other shots were foggy, literally. It was so bad that there's some guy who was cutting his lawn, and he had like landscaping company, and had this big mower, and it wasn't really even all that big. It was just loud. It was like they just said, forget it, we're not going to put a muffler on this thing. So 10:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning, this guy's, and you could hear this over the entire backside. You could hear his lawn mower machine roaring away, except for the few holes where it was wooded, and except for the few holes where we were way away on the other side of the course, away from like the one hole which is like number 15 or 16, where you're playing with the bay on the left side. That hole is a whole par 5 plus a whole par 4 away from where this guy was mowing, and you couldn't hear him on the far side of that par 5, but you could hear him on the near side of the par 4 because the tee box was right behind where he was mowing. So it's kind of a weird thing. You come 10, you run back towards the entrance, and 11, and you go back towards the beginning of the course, and then hang on. Yeah, 11, you come back on a like the base of a rectangle, and it's a straight par 4. Then there's 12, which is sort of a dogleg left, and it's a nice looking shot that approaches the clubhouse. And then you go, I guess it's 13 that goes around that crescent right in front of all those houses, and then 14 is the par 3, and then 15 is another pass back out to the far end. So for like 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, the whole time you hear this guy mowing the whole freaking time. And it was ridiculous. And then the tee box for the par 4 that goes along the bay behind the row of houses that you just played in front of, you could also hear him because he's right behind there, and he's going, and it's, oh my God, Jesus. And so there's that hole, there's another hole, there's 18, there's the number 9, there's, like the 8, there's probably half the course. This one douchebag mowing his lawn at 10:30 in the morning, I would say literally ruined my concentration on half the holes of the course. And then by the time I get to the 18th or 17th tee box, he finally stops mowing. It's like 11 o'clock. He finally freaking stops mowing that freaking yard. There's a little patch of grass he stops mowing. It really wasn't little. It was a pretty big size considering it was a front yard for one of these McMansions. But the bottom line is he basically, after an hour, he stops mowing and like, okay, now I have 2 holes left. Finally, at least I can play these 2 holes in peace. But you can't, because the 9th and 18th share a tee box. The 9th goes around the right side of the lake. There's a lake there that you're playing around to get back to the clubhouse, and the 18th goes around the sort of the left side, and there's a lake there. So if there's any goofballs playing the tee for number 9 and you're at 18, you're playing maybe 20 feet from them. There's also the green for 17, which is right behind that tee box. There's also the green for, I think it's 14, right? After you come off that par 5 that runs along the lake, that's also right there. That spot is a very busy spot, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, at least people, groups that are playing 2 greens and 2 tee boxes, and there's a par 3 not far away from it, which is number 17 par 3. It's not far at all. It's a very busy spot. It just is a little bit too busy, especially when it's foggy and you're trying to find your ball and the guys behind you are like, oh, come on, let's go. and you hit the ball into the fog and then you can't find it. And it was a nice shot off the tee and you can't find it anyway. So it's a little bit busy there. I think, other than that, it's a nice course. I actually thought the course was very nice. It's a good challenge. It's 7,000 yards from the back tees, slope 122. A nice, entertaining course, not too hard, not too easy. Has a decent amount of water on it, but not too much. No real woods that are a problem. Not really. It's really kind of wide enough to not really worry about the woods. And while it does have waste in the winter, obviously the waste is cut down. In the summer, they might let it grow up. In the winter, it was cut down. And your standard links course waste that grows up, waist high or something, long grass. This course didn't really have that. It had patches of grass, but they were cut down enough where they weren't a problem. And even then, it just wasn't that tight a course where it was a problem. It was a decent course. It was certainly a good course to play for someone who's a little bit rusty, hasn't played in a couple of months. And I enjoyed playing it, even though it was foggy. It was warm. It was wet. It was still warm enough. And if it wasn't for that guy with the lawnmower, I would have had a great time playing it. Unfortunately, the clubhouse was closed as of the snack bar and the kitchen area was closed as of November. So they really didn't have anything to eat, but that was okay. I went ahead and played my round, rode around, had a great time, got in the car and drove all the way back, many, many hours to get back home. So it was a fun ride. I actually enjoyed it. I can certainly recommend this course. I don't believe the other course is as good as this one, though they are almost the same road. This Rum Pointe Golf Links is a short drive away from Ocean City Boulevard that goes into Ocean City. It's maybe a 10, 15-minute drive away south of that. And there are a bunch of other golf courses along Ocean City Boulevard. But something to discover in the future, and I certainly can recommend it. Even though the weather wasn't really great, it certainly wasn't bad. It certainly didn't ruin my round, and I had a great time playing it. That was Rum Pointe Golf Links in Berlin / Ocean City / Chesapeake, Maryland. I certainly have to give it a B. Definitely a nice course. The greens were not super challenging and they were sanded down, but it was still good. The greens were nice and bouncy. Definitely pro greens and nice fairways and good white sand. It was pretty much, you couldn't ask for anything better except for maybe some blue skies and some seagulls and so forth and everything. It was definitely a good course. $50 on the weekend on Sunday morning in the off season. It'll probably roll up to $75 or $100, in the summer, but absolutely a good course to play and thoroughly enjoyed it. Got to give it at least a B plus. I'm going to say I'll give it a B plus for being good enough to play during the off season because it wasn't really great weather. It wasn't like the kind of place you want to run out and play, on the dreary, foggy, wet day that it was. But it was fun despite that. Absolutely enjoyed it and certainly can recommend it. I'll give it a charitable B plus for Rum Pointe Golf Links in Berlin, Maryland / Ocean City / Acid.